and I'm streaming. I want to make sure this is live before I actually start talking. Ooh, and we're live. So, I'm Sam. Jordan's on vacation, in case you didn't remember. Let me adjust this real quick. So, right now we're in my office guest space instead of my usual dining area because my husband is cooking for me tonight. And I'm really excited about the food. He makes this really delicious blueberry chicken. So I'm excited. I'm going over to the chat to see if anyone's here. YouTube is live. It's alive! It is alive. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy you guys got the notification. I hope more people get the notification soon so we can get things rolling. So, let's see. Today we're going to talk about an update on the progressive movement because I don't know if you guys saw, but not too long ago, the DNC decided to backpedal on their fossil fuel money ban. I mean, of course they did though. Like, were we really expecting them to keep their promise? I wasn't. I wanted to, but I wasn't. So Jordan talks about that last video, but he's on vacation now. But since then, there has been a movement. 35 young people with Sunrise Movement went to the DNC headquarters demanding that Tom Perez and party leadership reject the oil and gas CEO money. So I'm going to take you guys over to that video real quick to show you what they did. Excuse the trippiness over here. So Sunrise Movement, 35 people with Sunrise are at DNC headquarters. This was just yesterday. They went and spoke their mind for a good while, and whenever they left, they sang, which I thought was a nice touch. There's a comment down here that says, "This isn't about individual employees giving money. This is a lie. Please call her out on that." And that was about whenever they approached the DNC and was like, "Look, this is what you're doing. This concerns us, and we don't want you to do this." The woman that was there was like, well, this is a workers' thing. We don't want to step on the toes of workers and individual donations, and if we don't take money from these PACs, what about the workers? You know, as they actively try to dismantle unions and aren't for unions. Like, wow, of course they did, right? So that's what that's about. They said, the DNC people told the youth that went that they would talk. They would talk it over. There's going to be a meeting in Chicago. And they were really happy they came by. And you know, it was kind of funny because initially at the beginning of the video, they were very clearly bothered by them being there. And then somewhere along the way, it kind of clicked like, hey, I need to be nice because this is like the youth, the future of the party here telling us this. And if we react in a certain way, they're going to slam us on social media. And I think it was around I watched like the whole thing yesterday because I was really excited. It was around like the 10-minute mark you could see the change of, oh, I'm irritated, to, oh, let's talk, because it clicked. You can see that it clicked for them. Since then, the Sunrise Movement has been doing a lot of different actions this week. I'm going to go back to their page again real quick so you can see. Heat Week, no fossil fuel money. They also went to politicians and talked to them about taking fossil fuel money. And they are just continuing and continuing to confront politicians. And they've been doing this across the country. It's really, really wonderful to watch. So this is the Sunrise Movement, and I'm so happy they did this because it's honestly, it's such bullshit that the DNC went back on that. Like, it's awful. I'm gonna go to the chat real quick to make sure everything's good. How you doing? Oh, how sweet. Me too. Hello. Thanks for sharing, Emma. Tom Perez and the DNC leading with their values again. Yes, Carl. So glad you could come by. Like I tell the Jehovah's Witnesses at my door Saturday morning at 8 a.m. So nice of you to come by. Yes. Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what happened. It was really comical. Like I said earlier, it was so funny to watch this video because they're like stepping over themselves as this group of really talented like people who have really got their points together start attacking them like, why are you doing this or why are you doing that? And it was such a joy to watch. I took a lot of pleasure in watching it. So speaking about the progressive movement, we've been told by corporate media over and over that the progressive movement isn't doing anything. Was it last night on Stephen Colbert's show? Was it last night? Bernie Sanders went on there, and Stephen was like, you know, the 4 people that you and like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez endorsed, only 2 of them won. The progressive movement isn't taking off because 2 out of the 4 people that you endorsed didn't win. So therefore, the progressive movement isn't taking off. And we keep seeing that. I don't know if you saw earlier this week's and last week's video on progressive wins from last week. But there's a lot of gaslighting going on. The media keeps saying and keeps undermining the progressive movement. They're only looking, again, they're only looking at the big races. They're not looking at any of the races in between. Like most of corporate media, well, all of corporate media didn't know about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez until the week of when she won. There's a tweet of Joy Reid saying, you know, oh, we're catching up on this candidate because she's just come out of nowhere. We have no idea. Meanwhile, you know, news outlets like us, Status Coup, and, well, soon to be Status Coup, we're going to be launching soon. And The Intercept had been reporting on her for quite a while. So I'm going to show you some of the progressive wins that we've had across the country. And go back to desktop. Please excuse the trippiness. This is from Americans for Progressive Change. They're really great. The Progressive Change Campaign Committee put together this map. And as we can see, within the last 2 weeks, except for that one was a while ago, we've had a lot of wins. See, we had Iron Stash win, we had Ellen Omar win, and a lot of these people, like, there's some white Bernie bros, like, look, we have 2, okay, maybe 3, 4 white Bernie bros out of all these women and all these people of color. Look at that. Look how beautiful that is. So these red points right here means that it's currently held by a Republican, and these blue points over here means currently held by a Democrat. But, of course, let's face it, what's the difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party? At this point, there isn't. Well, there's some slight differences. The Republican Party has some legitimate Nazis and some pedophiles. And all of the center Republicans are starting to come over to the Democratic side. So that's funny. That's great. I'm going to go back over to the comments real quick just to see how you guys are doing. Leading with their values. You're good. Thank you, Franklin. Gaslighting. Yes. Washington Berniecrats are working super hard, especially for Sarah Smith in CD9. That's good to know. Lying. They thought ignoring her would make her disappear. You know, I mean, that's true. You're right. Ignoring her would make her think, like, make them think that she would disappear, and that didn't work. Isn't that wonderful? Grassroots democracy is really nice. Sarah Smith's Washington CD9. Sorry, Franklin, I didn't know about Sarah Smith in Washington CD9, but now that you told me about her, I'll look her up. They have to pretend they don't know what's going on, not that suppression of progressive ideas is their agenda. Well, I mean, I believe to a certain extent the suppression of progressive ideas is on their agenda. Because if it wasn't, they wouldn't be constantly trying to derail the conversation. Every time a progressive goes up to talk, if you watch interviews with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, with Bernie Sanders, they're constantly interrupting them and trying to, like, make them minuscule and be like, well, how is this actually going to work? What are your policies? I really, there's this one article I read in The Atlantic. It was like, democratic socialism is bad for minorities. Meanwhile, there is a legitimate quote by Martin Luther King Jr. about democratic socialism. Here, hold on. I'm going to find that quote because it's relevant right now. Quote. Call it democracy or call it democratic socialism. There must be a better way for the working people. I don't pop up ads. So anyway, call it democracy or call it democratic socialism. I mean, but Atlantic put out a piece, and the thing is about this piece, it was clearly an opinion piece, but the Atlantic has rebranded their opinion section into an ideas section. So, like, can we think about, like, the connotative difference between an idea and an opinion for a second? Like, an idea is innovative, right? Like, it's meant to be innovative. An opinion is an opinion. It doesn't necessarily have a connotation of trying to be innovative. It's so annoying. So annoying. Okay, so let's see. Before I go on to the next topic about Free Press, so the Free Press PR campaign is interesting. They started this fairly recently, and if you don't know about hashtag Free Press, what they're doing is all of corporate media is getting together, and they're doing this PR campaign based off of Donald Trump's attacks on them. So, you know, Donald Trump's constantly saying fake news, don't trust the media, just left and right, discrediting media. And there's, you know, some legitimacy to that, but also it's really bad, right? So they've gotten together and done this Free Press campaign. I'm going to show you guys what that Twitter feed looks like right now, because literally it's every single corporate outlet, everything. They're all getting together doing hashtag Free Press, and they are riding this ride. Excuse the trippiness. Loading, loading, loading. Constitution, First Amendment. Free press is a pity your oath meant so little as you blah blah blah. Jameson, editorial spearheaded by Boston Globe. Traitor, traitor, Putin wants America in its most vulnerable position. I'm sure you guys are aware of like the whole Russia stuff, have seen our Russia videos, our Russiagate, and if you don't follow Jimmy Dore on that stuff, you should too. And of course, this dude, entrepreneur, civil rights activist, co-founder and partner of We Are So's. He has all of these corporate outlets, these corporate journalists, and then free press. So as you can see, as I'm scrolling, this is very much a coordinated campaign, PR campaign. And they're just rolling with it. Ah, there's some Julian Assange. Good stuff. So, let's talk about why the free press may not actually be free. First of all, okay, 6 corporations own our media. Okay? 6 corporations. And it was about to go down to 5 when Disney was going to buy out Fox, I believe. But very little, there's hardly any diversity in our media. 6 corporations push out 90% of our media. 15 billionaires are also in on this. We know Jeff Bezos of Amazon owns Washington Post. And you know, the other day, down here in Houston, a reporter from the Washington Post came down to report on some racism stuff that happened that I talk about in one of the past videos. And I asked this Washington Post journalist, I was like, hey, how do you feel about Amazon owning your paper? I go straight to it. And he was like, well, they don't technically own our paper. It's a stakeholder, a subsidiary, blah, blah, blah. It's basically corporate tentacles, right? So a corporate tentacle, this is a Samantha thing, this is a Sam thing, this is something I've entirely come up with because corporate tentacles are a real thing. Corporate tentacles is when a corporation finds other ways to own different things, right? But they're trying to hide behind it. So like in all technicalities, Amazon may not directly own Washington Post, but they have a corporate tentacle aligning themselves with Washington Post. Okay? And that's what this dude was trying to tell me. He was like, well, we don't technically, blah, blah, blah. So this Washington Post journalist continues. He's like, well, also it's been great for the paper because it's giving us a real financial backing. We're able to hire more reporters. We're able to put more people out in the field. As you can see, I'm here in Houston when I should be in my hometown. There's more financial backing. And I was like, okay, well that's cool. That's cool. Are there any cons? They took away our pensions. Okay, they took away our pensions. This is what he literally tells me. So on one hand, he's like, oh, well, you know, Amazon, ever so not technically owning our paper, has been great because we've had some really good financial backing. But, you know, on the other hand, they've taken away our pensions. Like, do we not see the irony there? Like, and I just looked at him, I was like, oh, all right. And he had more of a roundabout way of saying this. So whenever he said, you know, financial backing, he talked for like 2, 3, 5 minutes probably before he got to the pensions thing. And it was just hilarious. It was like, wow, you are really disconnected. But anyway, where were we? Off from my tangent. This is water. Okay. I'm going to go back to the comments real quick to see how you guys are doing, and then we're going to talk about more about media's ties with politics. Hey Sam. Hey Carl. Good seeing you. Yes, Commander Mays, Jimmy Dore really does get the Russia Gate thing right. Like, he's had some Daily Beast whistleblowers on there. He nails the Russia Gate stuff. I really love watching him. Doesn't own the paper, just yes, Bezos does have a 600 million contract with the CIA. Okay. So up next it's the continuation of this whole issue with corporate media owning too much of what we consume and this free press. They keep saying free press as if like they're completely under attack, but they're their own propaganda machines. So we're going to take a look at this handy dandy spreadsheet. Who owns the media? Here's the parent company. This is for broadcasting TV, as you can see down here. Sinclair, Nexstar, Gray Television, Raycom, Ion. Okay, so it's more than 6. Hearst Corporation owns one of my local newspapers. Walt Disney Company. This has come from over here. Free press, media. Who owns the media? Massive corporations dominate the U.S. media landscape. These interactive charts, the one I just showed you, reveals who owns what. Over here, like I was talking about earlier, these 15 billionaires own America's news media companies. This is from Forbes. And this is 2016, so still fairly recent. We have Michael Bloomberg, of Bloomberg and Bloomberg Media, the richest billionaire in the media business, Rupert Murdoch, News Corp, Donald and Samuel C. Newhouse, Advanced Publications, the Cox family, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Jeff Bezos, The Washington Post, bought The Washington Post for $250 million in 2013. So, isn't that great? John Henry, The Boston Globe, Sheldon Adelson, The Las Vegas Review-Journal. And it cracks me up. So I'm going through this, and this is, oh, look, there's another billionaire who owns the New York Times. This really, if this doesn't, here, let me come back over to me real quick. The issue with billionaires owning so much of our media is that they can create class propaganda, right? So every time we hear them try to refute Medicare for all, or they're like, your progressive movement isn't working, this is class propaganda. We see a lot of these corporate outlets also talk about why we don't need minimum wage. And on top of that, instead of, they have the people and they have the resources to cover every single injustice and silent emergency across the United States. Every single one. But what do they talk about? They talk about Trump. They talk about Russia. They have debates amongst each other. Fox News has been caught putting up fake, intelligence community people. And don't forget, speaking of which, Anderson Cooper used to work for intelligence community. Isn't that great? So, Like, we see all these different ways that they can propagate class propaganda, and that's what they're there for. I mean, right? So we're going to go back over here. Please excuse the trippiness again. NBC Universal executive hosts fundraiser for Hillary Clinton. So this is where we start to see the overlap. TV pundits praise Hillary Clinton on air, fail to disclose financial ties to her campaign. Tune into television coverage of the presidential campaign, and undoubtedly you will hear from various pundits described as former campaign strategists and political contributors explaining the latest developments of the race. But in many cases, these pundits, though introduced as neutral experts on campaigns or party politics, in fact have financial ties to the candidates they praise on air. Journalism 101 teaches that reporters and TV news hosts most probably identify their sources and analysts. We reached out to NBC, CBS, CNN, and ABC News, but we did not hear back. Again, do we see what I mean when I say class propaganda? And I go back to that too because one of the biggest fights in 2016 was that Hillary represented the corporations, right? The corporations, the greedy people who want to suck the life through corporate tentacles out of people. That's bipartisan at this point. And we continue to see this in the media. So for the media to act like they're the victim in this whole free press PR campaign is pretty comical. It's hilarious, actually, because Donald Trump is attacking them, trying to ruin their credibility, but for some of them, their credibility is already shot. Now, is it to say that Donald Trump doesn't need to be held accountable? Yes. I am not saying that he doesn't need to be not held accountable, because he does. But, you know, for things that are correct, that we have proof for, maybe. I don't know. I'm just putting these things out there. I don't know anything. I'm going to go back over to the comments and see how y'all are doing. Let's see. What people haven't figured out yet is that the globalists are told to fear are the corporatists. Corporations don't have the political stripe, they have the money stripe, that's it. It is time to be brave. Emma, yes, they are scrambling to get it back by crushing our truth tellers, Manning, Snowden, and Assange. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I'm kind of, I've been on the edge of my seat with this whole Assange thing. The latest update that I saw was that, you know, the U.S. is trying to get him out of the Ecuador, out of his asylum, and they want him to testify. Now, to me, there's some pros and cons with testifying, right? Because when Julian Assange testifies in front of the court, we'll know what happened. Like, he'll have to say what went on. But then I'm also, you know, worried because our courts aren't going to listen to him. You know, they're actively trying to squash independent media. They're actively trying to squash whistleblowers. Chris Hedges tried to sue Obama for the Patriot Act for misusing the spy portion of it because it put the U.S. in a position to arrest journalists indefinitely. And then, um, here recently, in the courts, we're seeing Mark Edwards, a Flint scientist, trying to sue people, trying to sue Flint activists. And in another case, I forget who it was, but the judge dismissed this politician over, like he had the right to do that. The politician had the right to do what he did. So I'm kind of scared, and this is going to really set the precedence for our actual free press. We never talk in terms of monopolies anymore. Pork chop, that's a good point. Monopolies. I'm going to be sure to use monopoly more often in my verbiage, because that is a good point. Yes. So, well, that's all I really got for you. Jordan is out of town, and I'm not in my usual little workspace because my husband's cooking. I usually, if you guys see in my other videos, there's like this blue background behind me. I'm in the dining room. It looks like, I'm in my kitchen just having a conversation with y'all. But in this case, I'm in my office space. Jordan's on he's not on vacation. He didn't go anywhere. He's just taking a break because he needs a break. And as always, if you can share the videos, social media suppression is really bad. So we really do need help sharing the videos. This channel has 14,000 subscribers, and how many people are watching? 37 people are watching right now. 14,000 subscribers and 37 people are watching. That's pretty insane. And we will be launching Status Coup pretty soon. We have the website not up and going, but it's almost there. And if you guys want to help out or can help out monetarily, it's paypal.me/statusquo. So I'm really excited. Some upcoming interviews I'm trying to get. I don't know if you guys saw the progressive win out of Ferguson. On that situation when Michael Brown was killed, the prosecutor at the time named Bob didn't prosecute the cop appropriately. But since then, there has been a progressive win, and his name is Wesley Bell, and I'm working on arranging an interview with him. Tomorrow, I'll be back on here around this time interviewing this guy from Georgia who has been arrested by the Democratic Party. They took him to court, and they are currently using his restraining order and really taking advantage of it. His story is probably one of the more extreme progressive stories I've heard. But I really look forward to that interview, and I hope you guys can, pay attention and share the video because that's going to be a good interview. So I'm going to go back over to the comments real quick. Did Jordan ever get his piece published? Not yet, Carl. That's another thing with corporate media. Jordan's been working on this Flint piece that is going to blow the lid off. I can't, if Jordan hasn't told you anything, I sure as hell can't tell you anything. But it's really some shit, and he's gotten denied from a lot of corporate outlets. And in one of his videos, he talks about a corporate outlet trying to steal his work. He does splurge on the corporate media outlets, and as soon as he does find a place to publish the research, he's going to dish everything that he's had to deal with as far as trying to get the story out there. So, but no, it's not out there, and But need you to know, like, we're actively trying to get it out there. Are there only 37 or are there a few thousand, but they are shadow banned? Plot twist. I mean, maybe they are shadow banned. I don't know. I'm not really good with technology, so I don't have much of an opinion. I'm really bad at technology. As you can see, like my setup here, I had to get my husband over here. I was like, hey, can you help me out with the lights? Because this isn't, like I said, this isn't my usual setup. I'm usually in the dining room. So, but he's cooking, and I was like, I need help over here because this is just not working. But anyway, that's all I got, and I will see you guys later. Toodles. Stop.